The breaking news this morning, 5 missiles have hit the western Ukrainian city of Lviv. Now, earlier, I spoke to the former head of the British Army, who told us that he thinks the strikes are evidence of Russia softening up Ukraine ahead of a major land offensive to hit the east. He fears that the conflict could last for months or even years, with Ukraine having to give up parts of its territory. Stay tuned for more of the interview. Now, meanwhile, the country's president has warned that Russia wants to destroy the Donbass. President Zelensky said that the aim was to wipe other cities in the region off the face of the earth. Let's get the latest developments in the war. Well, the mayor of Lviv says there have been 5 targeted strikes on the city, an area where millions have fled the Russian invasion. At least 6 people are reported to have been killed in those attacks. Now, Ukraine warned that Russia's continued strikes in Mariupol could be a red line that ends all efforts to reach peace through negotiation. And President Zelensky said that Russian troops in the south of Ukraine have been carrying out torture and kidnappings of local government representatives and anybody deemed visible to local communities. Now, earlier we spoke to the former head of the British Army, Lord Dannatt, who told us that he believes it's only a matter of time before Mariupol falls. He also said he fears that the conflict could drag out for months or even years, with Ukraine being forced to cede some of its territory.
Securing a land corridor from Crimea, which viewers will remember was seized by Russia in 2014, but Crimea hitherto has been only accessible to the Russians by sea. Now that they have almost completed seizing a land corridor from Crimea through Mariupol to the Donbass region, which of course links with Russia proper, they will then have joined up the dots, if you like, between Crimea and Russia proper. But in a sense, this is something of a sideshow now, although an important one and an important strategic objective of the Russians. And what we should be focusing on is the Russian likely significant attack from the east, pushing west to secure the 2 provinces of Luhansk and Donetsk, and the shelling that's been widely reported over the last few days right across Ukraine. I think one has to see that as being part of a preliminary operation by the Russians prior to launching their ground offensive in the east.
This morning we've heard of at least 5 missile strikes on Lviv. That's, of course, in the west of Ukraine. It's a place where many people have fled to on their way out of the country. What does that tell us, do you think, about perhaps the change in tempo of the Russian invasion?
Well, I think what that does tell us is that the Russian attack in the east that I was talking about just a moment ago is being properly prepared for this time. What we saw right at the start of this conflict, that haphazard strike south from Belarus towards Kyiv, was a very uncoordinated operation, which, as we all know, ultimately failed. Vladimir Putin has put General Alexander Dvornikov in charge of operations in Ukraine, and he is preparing this major strike in the east, striking from the east towards the west. And as part of the preliminary operations for that ground maneuver, we're seeing artillery strikes across the length and breadth of Ukraine, even as far to the western city of Lviv. Now, this is for two reasons. One is probably to continue to try and undermine the will of the Ukrainian people. I think that will be largely unsuccessful, as their spirit is quite fantastic. But secondly, I think the Russians are targeting military hardware depots, factories, and trying to erode and reduce the capability of the Ukrainian armed forces to resist their strike when it comes in the east. So I think we see the cruise missile strikes, the artillery strikes right across Ukraine as being part of the softening up, if you like, the preliminary operations before the major land strike, which will occur sometime in the next few days or weeks. Ukrainians desperately want to continue the fight and be successful, and Vladimir Putin has got to have some kind of success that he can report to his people. So I think what we're going to see, going back to what I said a few moments ago, is having achieved that land corridor from Crimea to the Donbass, we're then going to see this meticulously prepared, I think this time, attack by the Russians into the Donbass region to secure those 2 provinces and then threaten to move further west. And I'm afraid that the Russians, having captured those areas in the east, having captured that land corridor, will not want to give that up. And it may well be that over the time, Ukraine may have to accept that it's lost part of its territory. Russia will not easily give up that territory. And frankly, why should it? Who can make them do so? And NATO is not going to mount a major operation and throw them out. And if the Ukrainians can't, and it may well be an ask too far for the Ukrainians to throw the Russians out, then this may well become a stalemate over a period of months and years, whereby the Russians have controlled the east, have controlled that land corridor, and the Ukrainians are left with about 85% of their territory.